How can the Denver Broncos leave Tennessee on Sunday with a big-time, much-needed victory? We take a look at the offensive keys to victory for this Broncos team led by Russell Wilson, plus the defense's tough task of slowing down Derrick Henry. Plus, who are some players to watch? You get that and much more on today's brand-new episode, Locked On Broncos.
You are Locked On Broncos, your daily Denver Broncos podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, Broncos country? Welcome into a brand new episode, Locked On Broncos, your daily Denver Broncos podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Thank you so much to everybody in Broncos country for tuning in and making Locked On Broncos your first listen of the day, free and available everywhere you get your podcasts in audio format, or whether you're watching us on YouTube, do us a favor, hit that subscribe or that follow button down below so you never miss out on a day's worth of Denver Broncos news, content, coverage every single day, all year long. From the South Stands to the end zone, I'm your host, as always, Cody Rourke, Broncos reporter for Mile High Sports. I cover the team every single day in person at practice. I go to home games, away games. You get all that coverage and recap here, Locked On Broncos, not to mention MileHighSports.com. My co-host, Sarah Bettinger, is out at Disneyland, so he's enjoying time with his family, and rightfully so. We're keeping it business here on today's episode, Locked On Broncos. And we're going to dive into keys to victory here today, though, Broncos country. So make sure all throughout this episode, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you tweet us out your keys to victory that you want to see the Broncos achieve. And also, if you're listening on your favorite audio podcasting platform, you can always tweet us on Twitter at Cody Rourke NFL, at Sarah Bettinger, at Locked On Broncos. But let's get things rolling here on today's episode of the show. Let's take a look at the Broncos offense. When we talk about keys to victory, you look at this Broncos offense that has struggled at a historically bad level this season with consistency. We've talked about how bad the third down issues have been, 33 of 113, 29% conversion percentage in those situations. And even on short yardage third down situations, the Broncos have struggled. And this offense will face probably its toughest challenge yet, I would say, from a defensive standpoint, against the Tennessee Titans. And the reality of the situation is it starts with Tennessee's front seven. Their defensive interior is full of dudes that create a lot of penetration, cause a lot of havoc, disrupt the run game. We're talking about guys like Danico Autry. We're talking about Jeffrey Simmons. These two guys are the most dangerous men that the Broncos have to accommodate or account for, not necessarily accommodate, but have to account for in Sunday's game against the Tennessee Titans, because these guys can not only just line up in the A-gap as a one-tech, a zero-tech, inside shade with a two-eye, or even a three-tech. These guys are disruptive to the point where when they have combo blocks or, different stunts that is called up by the defensive coordinator, they do a lot of slanting and cross and face while also trying to anchor and push guys back, blitz a linebacker inside the A or the B gap to replace where the defensive tackle is. And for this Broncos offensive line that, new faces and new places, Graham Glasgow will start at center this week for the Broncos there. You have Dalton Reisner at the left guard position, and you're going to have Quinn Miners at right guard. Can some of the communication issues we've been seeing on the interior of the offensive line, can these things find a way to not impact the Broncos in a negative way, the way that they have been in the first half of the season? And you know what? A way I would say to find a way to disrupt a defensive line like this that likes to cause a lot of quick pressure, get the quick passing game going here if you're the Broncos. I'd say one thing that did work, the Broncos offense appears to be at their absolute best when they're able to get the ball out of their hands quickly, when they're able to have a little bit more up-tempo. I'm not saying go no huddle, but be faster with it. Even Greg Dulcich says, hey, we are much better when we are going faster. And I think we saw that on that 98-yard drive that the Broncos had against the Jacksonville Jaguars. They were quick, they were upbeat, they were getting the ball out of his hand, Russell Wilson's hands quickly, and they were attacking different levels. They were attacking short to intermediate, and then they took a couple of pop shots downfield. That's where we start to see this Broncos offense, I think, find a little bit more rhythm, right? And in order to do that, get Russell Wilson in rhythm. Get him some easy, quick passes to get the flow of the game going here. And then, of course, it's all about balance, right? You don't want to be too pass happy against a team like the Tennessee Titans, because if you do have time to stand in the pocket, guys like Autry, guys like Simmons, they can disrupt it. They can set you back, obviously with sacks. Russell Wilson, being one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the National Football League so far this season, is not an ideal standing when you take a look at this defensive front that they are about to go against. So it's all about balance, getting guys involved. Courtland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler will find out if he's going to play on Sunday. Had a hamstring tweak in practice earlier this week. And then Greg Dulcich a little bit. Maybe we'll see Albert Okwuegbunam, active as well alongside Dulcich this week. According to George Payton, the Broncos will need him. But then I think you go to the run game, right? It's all about balance. And I think with Melvin Gordon and Latavius Murray, you have two really capable backs here that have the ability to make things easier for you. Now, if the Broncos can come out in this game, let's say they can start ripping off a couple of chunk runs and get the run game going, I think that really reduces the amount of pressure you have in the passing game. I think it opens up your playbook a little bit more. We haven't seen the Broncos, though, this season get to that point where they do have that truly established balance because every game the offense has struggled. So, it's cliche, but this could be the perfect game for the Broncos to actually get into a rhythm where they can run the ball and they can pass the ball more effectively, more consistently than we've seen them do so far early on this season. And that'll be a major key to watch this week. On Sunday, the Broncos will travel to Nashville to take on the Tennessee Titans. I'll be in Nashville covering the game. You'll get Locked On Broncos coverage here after the game. Once I get back to my hotel room, you get the written content, game recap, milehighsports.com if you want to follow my written work there as well. But Broncos country coming up here in just a moment. We're going to shift our focus to the defensive side of the ball. When we talk about keys to victory, it all starts with slowing down one guy, and that is Derrick Henry. That's coming up on today's episode of Locked On Broncos. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn, and these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. It's super easy to go and create a free job post in minutes at LinkedIn Jobs. Then add your job in the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread word that you and your company are hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and to hire. It's important that you close out the 2022 year on a strong note. Make sure you have the right team member for your job. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. One of the bigger keys to this week's game for the Denver Broncos is cliche enough in saying you must find a way to slow down Derrick Henry. But how can the Broncos do that? That's what you get on today's episode, Locked On Broncos. Thank you so much, Broncos country, for tuning in and making Locked On Broncos your first listen of the day every single day in your favorite audio podcasting platform, or whether you watch us on YouTube. We appreciate you so much taking time out of your day to listen or to watch us talk all things Denver Broncos. Make sure you get involved in the conversation. If you're listening on your favorite audio podcasting platform, tweet me on Twitter at Cody Rourke NFL, at Lockdown Broncos, with your thoughts on today's episode. Or if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you comment down below. Also, do us a favor, if you like the video as well, it helps push it out to more members in Broncos country. But let's get to our second key to victory here for this Broncos team. We focused on the offensive side of the ball in the previous segment here. Now we're going to focus on the Broncos defense. And as cliche as it may sound, you stop one guy, you have a chance to win this game here. But that one guy you have to stop is Titans running back Derrick Henry. It's kind of like that one scene in 21 Jump Street where it says, infiltrate the dealer, find the supplier. Well, the Broncos need to infiltrate the opposing offense here with the Tennessee Titans and find a way to slow down Derrick Henry. When you talk about a guy, you look at Henry, he's not built like anybody particular in the National Football League. For a guy that plays the running back position at his size and his stature, the speed that he has for how big he is, he truly is a one-of-a-kind player. And right now, he has the ability to just explode at any point in time. Now, the Kansas City Chiefs, they struggled against Derrick Henry in the first half last week when they played in Sunday Night Football, and they could not find a way to really stop him in that first half. Then, in the second half, Tennessee just couldn't get the run game going. They went away from Derrick Henry in the second half there, and that's what allowed the Chiefs to kind of hold on and do what they do best, find ways to put up points. And this is something that the Broncos have to do, is they have to find a way to put up points on the offensive side of the ball. But For an offense like Tennessee, one thing that they do really, really well, when they run the football as effectively as they have with Derrick Henry, they can control the time of possession. They can make it to where your offense can't get on the field. And I think this is where the trap is here for the Denver Broncos this week, because we talk about how good that Tennessee Titans defensive line is. They're smothering. They're suffocating in a sense that if your offense can't get anything going and all of a sudden the Titans offense led by Derrick Henry is just first down. They're finding ways. They're scoring. They're giving up big chunk plays. That is a little bit of a concern here for the Broncos as the war of attrition sets in a sense here for this team. And we've seen that consistently throughout the year. We saw it against the Las Vegas Raiders, against Josh Jacobs. Heck, even Breece Hall had a 62-yard run against the Broncos in the New York Jets game that really kind of was the difference maker, the defining factor in the outcome of that game for the Broncos. And then Travis Etienne had some big-time gains and obviously over 100 yards rushing against Denver. And you can't afford to make these same mistakes on first down, especially defensively, where you allow a guy like Derrick Henry to run for 5, 6, 7 yards on a pop there, because that makes your room for error on second down and third down potentially a little bit smaller here. And the Broncos, I think the one thing is going to be intriguing for me is you have DJ Jones, you have Mike Purcell, you have Deshaun Williams, Draymond Jones, you have the meat in the middle to be able to kind of create an impact here. And then you're going to have your outside linebackers there. You're going to, whether it be Nick Bonito, Baron Browning, or Jonathan Cooper and Nick Bonito, depending on Browning's status. And then you're going to have your linebackers, where I kind of alluded to it yesterday on Lockdown Broncos, said I would not be surprised if the Broncos get a little creative here and have an unorthodox approach where we've seen them run this defensive system where it's the 3-4, right? You're going to have your two outside linebackers, your three down linemen, then you're going to have, obviously, your two linebackers on the interior. Do not be surprised if the Broncos find a way to get Josey Jewell, Alex Singleton, and Jonas Griffith on the field at the same time as the team really looks to slow down Derrick Henry. And I tell you what, so much of this game plan, outside of just stopping Derrick Henry, will be predicated on who's playing at the quarterback position. Is it Ryan Tannehill? Now, if Tannehill is the quarterback, if he's coming off the ankle injury this week and will get the start here for the Titans, the one thing that you have to consider with him is he can hurt you in the passing game. Now, he's not going to be one of the most talented quarterbacks the Broncos face all year, but he has the ability to hurt you. And Treylon Burks, he was activated off, his window off of injured reserve was activated this week. He could make his return this week, and I imagine that Patrick Surtain will probably cover him if that's the case. You still have Robert Woods, who has the ability to hurt you with his speed. Austin Hooper at the tight end position, who is a very, very impactful player as well, is very underrated in a sense for how he plays the position inside an offense that likes to run as much as they do. So there's so many things that Denver's going to have to account for in this situation, but it all starts with stopping Derrick Henry. Now, if Malik Willis is the quarterback for the Broncos this week, now you have to factor in, okay, he's probably not going to be a strength suit in the passing game there, but when we talk about getting Derrick Henry the ball in the running game, Malik Willis can also carry the ball as well. He'll do read option. He'll read to see if the defensive end crashes down. If he does, he's going to pull it and he's going to try to get to the outside. This is where the Broncos have to be very, very disciplined this week. It's all about gap integrity in the run game, whether you're playing against Derrick Henry, whether you're playing against Malik Willis. You have to maintain that integrity, and I think that's something that the coaching staff has been preaching all week long here as the Broncos prepare to face the offensive juggernaut that is Derrick Henry and this Tennessee Titans offense. So that'll be one of the major keys to follow this week here as the Broncos prepare for Tennessee. They'll obviously kick things off early morning. It's going to be an 11 a.m. Mountain Time kickoff, so we'll have coverage here, Lockdown Broncos, along the way. But Broncos country coming up here in just one moment. We're going to take a look at some players to keep an eye on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball in Sunday's game against the Tennessee Titans. You'll get that coming up here in a moment on today's episode, Lockdown Broncos. Today's episode of the show is brought to you by our good friends over there at Simply Safe. And if you've thought about securing your home with home security, but you've been putting it off, you'll want to listen up right now, because Lockdown Broncos listeners can order the #1 rated Simply Safe home security system for 50% off. This is their biggest offer of the year, and you won't want to miss it. Simply Safe was named the best home security system of 2022 by U.S. News and World Report a third consecutive year in a row. And in an emergency, 24/7 professional monitoring agents use Fast Protect technology exclusively from Simply Safe to capture critical evidence and verify the threat is real, so you can get priority priority police response. Simply Safe is whole home security with advanced sensors for every room, window, and door, HD security cameras for inside and out, and smarter ways to detect motion that alerts you only when a threat is real, and even hazard sensors that detect fires, floods, and other threats to your home. 24/7 professional monitoring service costs less than $1 a day, less than half the price of ADT's traditional professionally installed system. And with the top-rated Simply Safe app, stay in complete control of your system. Arm or disarm from anywhere, wherever you're at. Unlock for a guest. Access your cameras or adjust system settings as needed. Don't miss your chance to save big on the only security system that I recommend, and get 50% off any new Simply Safe system at simplysafe.com/LockedOnNFL today. This is their biggest discount of the year, so do not wait. That's simplysafe.com/LockedOnNFL. There's no safe like Simply Safe. Which players for this Denver Broncos team will come up big in Sunday's action against the Tennessee Titans? Who are some players that Broncos country has their eye on, or who you need to keep your eye on with specifically in this game? Thank you so much, Broncos country, for tuning in and making Locked On Broncos your first listen of the day every single day, free and available everywhere you get your podcasts in audio format, or whether you're watching on YouTube. Thank you so much for taking time to listen or to watch all things Denver Broncos on your favorite smartphone, your computer, or your TV. We have you covered every step of the way. Getting into some players to watch in Sunday's game against the Tennessee Titans. We'll take a look on the offensive side of the ball, the defensive side of the ball, maybe a little bit of an honorary special teams name is something that we'll throw out there as well. Let's start off on the offensive side of the ball here. As cliche as it may sound, I think that the Broncos need to go back to what was working in the last game that they played against the Jacksonville Jaguars and against the New York Jets. We saw Jerry Jeudy really become a focal point of this Broncos offense, and I think that you need to continue to invest in that. If you're Nathaniel Hackett and if you're Russell Wilson, you're saying, okay, hey, when we get Jerry Jeudy the ball, when we can get him across the middle of the field open in coverage, or if we can put him in the slot, attack him vertically and have him step outside or inside, we can attack the middle of the field. We can attack the outside numbers there, especially against some zone coverage. The Broncos are more than likely to get some of that. They'll get some man coverage this week, as Tennessee is very aggressive in the sense that they want to send pressure after Russell Wilson. So it's all about identifying this stuff pre-snap. But Jerry Jeudy, we've seen good things happen when you get the ball in his hands, and you need to see a little bit more of that. And I think that'll be a big focal point of the offense here this week. And now, especially with KJ Hamler having a hamstring injury in Wednesday's practice, not sure of his status going into Sunday's game officially just yet. I mean, you're going to need Jerry Jeudy to be a big part of that, alongside Courtland Sutton. Not to say that, hey, don't fade Courtland Sutton out of the rotation, but more so, Russell Wilson has been very fixated on Courtland Sutton in the first half of the season. Find a way to distribute it. Find a way to balance it out between Courtland, between Jerry Jeudy. We know that Greg Dulcich is going to be a major part of the offense. And can the Broncos get the running backs involved a little bit more in the passing game? To me, I think if you can get the ball to Jerry Jeudy in this game against the Tennessee Titans, they have a multitude of corners, obviously. They have Fulton at the cornerback position, Caleb Farley as well. I think Denver has an opportunity to really kind of force the Titans to maybe play a little bit more desperate in a sense, right? Because this is a team that's just coming off of an overtime loss to the Kansas City Chiefs this past week. They didn't have a lot of much time to kind of get back into the groove of things. You need to find a way coming off the bye week very refreshed to just take it to the Tennessee Titans. And I think if you can get some big explosive plays going on with Jerry Jeudy in this offense, I think things will click a little bit and the Broncos will have a really good chance to go on the road and beat a very, very good Tennessee Titans team. But in an ideal world, in a woulda, coulda, shoulda world, I mean, we already have laid out the blueprint for that. And it's all about execution. It's about being consistent in play calling and things of that nature here for this Broncos team. Things that they have, quite frankly, they have struggled with consistently throughout the season. So, easier said than done when we're talking about it here on these podcasts, though, Broncos country. Now let's shift our focus here to the defensive side of the ball. For me, I felt like it was going to be cliche to just name one defensive player. But for me, I'm going to look at the entire front seven here. I'm going to look at a combination of guys. I think DJ Jones will probably be the most important player, he and Mike Purcell, when it comes to this week against Derrick Henry and the Titans, because of the way that these guys play on the defensive interior. Now, throughout this season against teams that have passed the ball, we've seen Ejiro Evero, Broncos defensive coordinator, design some schemes that allow the defensive tackles to stunt and cross-face against offensive linemen, to free linebackers or safeties to blitz on the interior, whatever you may have there. I don't think we're going to see too many stunt packages from Ejiro Evero this week, because the Tennessee Titans play downhill, smash-mouth football, and they like to get to the outside. So I don't think that you can do that, because every time you execute one of these stunts and you try to do it on a passing situation, and let's say that they check to a run, you have to execute that stunt perfectly, or else there will be a hole that does get created, and some teams can take advantage. And I don't know if you want to take that chance here with a guy like Derrick Henry. So the guys on the interior are going to be very important. Draymond Jones is going to be a key impact player, but it's also going to be the linebacker play too. Josey Jewell, Alex Singleton, Jonas Griffith. These guys are going to have such a critical role this week. And you know what? I'm going to throw it out there. Cornerbacks, Patrick Surtain, Damari Mathis, these guys will also be very, very crucial as well in the run game in terms of stopping, because when Derrick Henry and the Titans like to come to the outside, you got to be ready to fly up there and try to take him out at the legs and try to wrap up and hold on and allow other guys to do it. This is going to be a huge test, I think, for the secondary when we talk about tackling, and we'll see exactly how ready this team comes out in Sunday's action against Derrick Henry and the Tennessee Titans. Obviously, 11 a.m. Mountain Time kickoff here for this Broncos football team. I'll be in Nashville covering the game. You get a Locked On Broncos post-game report. You also get the written coverage at milehighsports.com. But Broncos country, thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode, Locked On Broncos. That'll wrap up today's episode of the show. We'll have you covered some final news and notes, final injury report as well here on the Locked On Broncos YouTube page and podcast feed as well, free and available everywhere you get your podcasts. With that said, I'm Cody Rourke, Broncos country. I'll see you on Sunday for a brand new episode, Locked On Broncos.